Herkese merhaba. Bundan
Hello
6
everyone.
saat önce size ilk önce merhaba
6 years
demiştim.
ago I said
Ve
hello
yeniden
today. Sorry,
buradayız.
6 hours ago, and now
Ben şu anda kendimi çok şanslı
again we are
hissediyorum.
here. I feel myself
Çünkü
so
Türkiye'de
lucky
yaptıkları
because
çalışmalarla, sivil alanda
with their
yaptıkları
work in
çalışmalarla
Turkey and in
kişisel
civil
olarak da çok
area,
yakından takip ettiğim, ilgiyle hem kendilerini hem
I can
kurumlarını
I can hear the
izlediğim
experiences
üç
of
tane
people
katılımcıyla
whose
bir
work
arada
I personally
olma
follow. I'm
şansım var.
together with three
Alternatif
participants right
Yaşam
now,
Derneği'nden Ercan
and from
Tutal'la,
Alternative
BoMoVu
Life Association,
TUTAL,
Ercan
Hamit
Tutal
Levent Evci ile ve
and
SES
Kudan
Kadın
Hamin,
sporlarından
and as
Ezgi Kırılmaz'la
women's sports
birlikteyiz.
Ezgi KIRILMAZ.
Her ne kadar ben de spor ve gönüllülükle ilgili çok fazla şey söylemek
And
istiyor olsam da
I
asıl
want to talk
uzmanlıkları
a lot
olan bu
about
üç
sports and
kişiye
volunteerism, but I
sözü
would like to
bırakmak
leave the word
istiyorum.
to experts here, to our three
Eminim ki
experts.
bugün
And
yapacağımız
I'm
bu
sure
panel
that
spor ve gönüllülük
this
konusunda
panel
dinleyenlerin vizyonunu açacak
will
ve
be
onlara
quite
yeni ufuklar
beneficial to our
kazandıracak
listeners, and
bir
they will have new
oturum olacak.
horizons.
Hepinize
This will
keyifli
be a
bir
prolific
vakit
session,
diliyorum.
in my opinion, and
Ve
I would like to
sözü SES
wish you
Kadın
an
Sporları
enjoyable time.
kurucularından
I
Ezgi
would like to leave
Kırılmaz'a
the word to Ezgi
bırakmak
Kırılmaz
istiyorum.
from SES
Birkaç
Women's
sorum var
Sports.
Ezgi.
So I have a
Hoş
few
geldin.
questions, Ezgi.
SES
Welcome.
neden ve nasıl bir ihtiyaçtan doğarak ortaya çıktı? Bir
What
sosyal
was the
girişim
need
olarak bu
that
süreç
paved the
içerisinde
way
nelere
for the
şahit
emergence of
oldunuz?
CIS, and what did you witness
Kadınlara
as a social
özellikle
entrepreneur in
çalışmanın
this
içerisinde.
process?
Ve bir pandemi dönemi
In
geçiriyoruz hep
addition,
beraber.
we are now
Yarattığınız
undergoing a
sosyal eğitim
pandemic
çalışmaları
process,
bu
and what
süreçten
is your
nasıl
social impact
etkileniyor?
and work?
Ve
And
gönüllülük
how was this
deyince siz bu
process
süreci nasıl
affecting
koordine ediyorsunuz?
your
Çok
work, and
teşekkür
how do you
ediyorum
coordinate
şimdiden.
this as a coordinator? Thank you.
Ben teşekkür ederim. Öncelikle böyle bir panelde bulunmanın
Thank you a lot. First of all, being in such kind of a panel, it really makes me very happy, and I would like to say this in behalf of all the CES women. And they're very nice questions, and I would like to clarify the issue of how we created this organization. As the two university students, we used to be an entrepreneur for basketball, and we decided we had a responsibility in the academy, but also we want to continue our sports life because we want to have this fair and peaceful environment for the sports, and we decided to have an environment where we can do everything peacefully. And when we were trainers, they were demanding an education from us, and we considered this decision. We said that yes, we can do it as two women. And when we started this, we started with basketball. Between the ages of 18 to 55, we decided to teach women, and we said that we're going to be organizing matches, basketball matches among women. And that wasn't very possible, and it wasn't very realistic for most of the people. But also, as we have been discussing up until the morning, the participation of women. So when we think about the equality between the gender and sports, we understand that it's quite difficult for women and little girls to take part in sports activities. So we were targeting plus 18 years old, and they could do sports in the past, or maybe there are some people who are just holding the ball for the first time. And we want those ladies, we want those women to be in the field and to play and to do sports. And so what can we say? What kind of an environment is this in CES? Let me talk about this. The first thing is it is equal, fair, and transparent. So this is the first motto for us. And you can be a 20-year university student, also you can be a 40-year-old a senior manager, but we're trying to create a platform where everyone can equally do sports together. This is the environment we created and says volleyball, basketball, table tennis. We have three different branches, and as Derya Yıldız is the founder also, we are taking control of the basketball, and with the other branches we have other entrepreneurs. They are the trainers, and we are organizing trainings, and we are giving trainings to the people, and we are trying to teach them how they can play according to their ages. It's a right to do sports for the women, and we want to protect this, and we want to expand that to the wide sides of the society, and that's the reason why we're working. We want women to reach sports, and we don't want them to be limited with certain sports, and we want them to contribute to the performance sports as well. And while we're doing so, we have certain principles. And in general terms, the sport is something competitive, and we have to keep this in the picture, but also we're saying that this is not everything, and we want everyone to complete their own self-development. So this is about the field. Other than the field, what are we doing as CES? So let me give some brief information about this one too. And so in the organizations, the half of the task is inside the field and the rest is outside the field. We are supporting, cis women are supporting one another. We are observing what we need. And so let's say that if they're quitting a job and they can just find a job, and whenever they need something else, we are definitely supporting the women. Within our foundation, we're supporting. There's a solidarity. There's a solidarity between women, and there's this social solidarity. And in addition to that, the being good, the good deeds, and sharing the good things. We want to share it with the other people. We're creating projects, and recently, before the pandemic, in 8 March, we bring together 150, 200 people, and we created a whole star night. People donated, and with the participation of TOP, and we allocated this money to the Young Women Foundation, and we are using this money. We're using those volunteering activities and good deeds with the rest of the society and the women inside the society. And do you have any other questions? And can you talk about the pandemic, how they're affected? So by means of, we believe that this is contributing women to take part in the public sphere, the women. And how are you managing this process during the pandemic? Can you talk about this a little bit, please? Yes, of course. I speeded up a little bit because of the delay, and I don't want to steal any time from the other people, so I felt stressful a little bit. That's pretty good. No concerns, please. And we started 5 years ago with 5 women, and it's really doubled, tripled, and because the people were made word of mouth, and many people learned about this. And before the pandemic, we had 350 active sports people, but right now, because of the pandemic, we have 200 active sports people. But in 5 years, 1,000 women actually played on the field. What does that mean? 1,000 women. It means that hundreds and thousands of people, the children, the men, and they also learned that they can do performance sports even in these ages. And the sport doesn't necessarily have to be something professional, but it's a lifetime thing. And some of the branches shouldn't be only left for the men, but also it's also the right of the women. In the beginning of the pandemic, we didn't know what to do. So over Zoom, we started to do some trainings and everything, but we stopped the physical trainings. And we made the social support. We had the conversation. We asked about the needs and do we need anything. So we tried to understand the social necessities of our members, but still we're going on our activities for the last 2 months because we know how to compete with it. So we took all the necessary precautions, and we are now in the field. Sometimes we're working outdoors, and so that we don't put ourselves into danger. And up until the morning, in the many panels, we're discussing about this inside the home. So there's this inequality between the home responsibilities, and they have more burden on their shoulders. And it's even more difficult for women. The life is more difficult for women, but they still want to allocate time for themselves, and they are doing sports, and it's actually creating a well-being, and we're trying to create this. And with self-sacrifice, they are trying to stay in as a part of it, and they're trying still expand this structure to the other people around them. Okay, thank you a lot, and thank you for your efforts, for your contributions, and you are really creating a great effect, and it's very important for the continuation of the women's solidarity. And let's continue with Hamit, Levent, Ezgi. From this, now let's go to another foundation called BoMoVu. And in CES, we know that it is a right-based thing, and it's a way of contribution and participation to the society. So now again, BoMoVu. Let's continue with BoMoVu because they're creating a difference with their name and with their stance. It is the initials of their name, and so it is the body movement for empowerment. So this is the long version of the name. So what does the name equal to, and what are you trying to put forth in sports? And also, what can you say about sports and volunteering? Of course, and also about the pandemic. Can you just say a couple of things? Hamit, Levent. Thank you, Derya, for your question. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee and the technical people, the speakers, and the participants for this meeting. And in this panel, I'm very happy to be with Ezgi and Ercan, and because I wanted to talk about this issue from two different perspectives, and this is what am I going to do. In my my bachelor degree was sports training, but I can say that personally I am representing two sides because I never work in sports as a sports person, but I participated most of the humanistic approaches. So I'm very happy that a group of people came together and we created a union under the roof of BoMoVu, and we still have this union. And we are a quite organized institution, and we are all volunteers, and we're trying to fight against for our rights. And sports and volunteering, when we think about two concepts, actually we see two different axes. And the first group is about sports. Inside of sports, their thinking is a social area, and also in that social area to become a volunteer. And when you look at it from the background, the freedoms, the basic freedoms and rights in the sports. And Ezgi mentioned that, for instance, gender inequality is one of the most important problems in sports. And Ercan will be talking about this disabled people and the participation of the disabled people to sports. And this is also an important issue. The other thing is sports. Saying sports as a tool. It's the body movement, and it has many nice effects. It is comprehensive, it's inclusive, and also it is inviting people to play games together. So it is sports, and so it is a powerful tool. And most of the NGOs, and I'm thinking that most of the participants who are listening, and sports is being used as a tool, and over that tool we are volunteering. And when we look at two different axes, even though they seem differently, in both of the axes, one is the sports and the other one is the rights of the disabled people. It can be the equality of gender, it can be about migration, all of the relations. And in all of the fields, there are certain norms. There are some power relations, and there are some hierarchical relations, and it is creating certain norms. And those norms and are creating certain effects on our body and on our movement. And by means of movements, it's causing certain actions. So we are reaching a better life. We are self-realizing ourselves. We're reaching our targets. So it is, there are certain pressures, and by means of those pressures again, and it is creating a hegemony. And because of that, we have two different axes. As BoMoVu, we are also trying to contribute in sports, in the other social, any kind of power relations, any kind of hierarchy. We want to discuss about them, we understand, and we want to destructure them. And so it is not only about sport, it's not only performance sports, but it's starting from the movements, the actions, and we are trying to understand the whole concept thoroughly. And in the studies that we conduct, we are trying to empower the groups, and also we want to extend these discussions to wider publics. What kind of things do we do? First of all, about sports, we are fighting against the inequality. We have certain studies. For instance, we are doing critical discourses over sports, and we have racist, anti-racist sports discussions, and women, children, and also the immigrants. So we are creating curriculums for the groups, and we're working together with them. Let me give you a couple of examples. So we have a project. It's called Free Movements, and in this Free Movements, movements, we are working together with immigrants. And so what we're doing is with the body movements, with the body gestures, we are trying to teach them about their freedom for action, movement. And so this is not only over physical, but we're trying to teach them that they can construct it over other issues as well. And the borders, for instance, we are working with the children, and we're teaching them the old games, and we are trying to teach them different cultures. And it's all about social empowering, both for sports and the sport-related areas. And let me just say a couple of things about the sports and volunteering. And volunteering is about participation. This is completely about just contribution. So if you want to do volunteer about something, first of all, you need to decide what do you want to do and how do you want to contribute. And we are plussing everything together. So there's a project, and in the project, for instance, we're working with the girls who are under risk, and we are observing their talents. For instance, a hip hop dancer. So they're producing something, and there's a program, and we are working together with the little girls about this hip hop, for instance. So they are producing something, and they are moving together. And so this is very important, sports and volunteering. About the pandemic, I just want to give you a couple of examples. I can say that indeed in our facilities we used to have criticism discourses, and we have this spontaneous activities, yoga, and we used to have women workshops and everything. We are now organizing them online, and we are working on more targeted groups like teachers and children, and we are now running them over digital tools. And very recently we had a new portal which is called Wherever You Are, We Are There. We created that kind of a group, and that content is also being shared with our members. And recently, in the 5-6 minutes, as BoMoVu, how we can expand that. So we have this guideline for sports, for the social guidance, and we have it in the as a hardware copy. And so we're trying to extend that within the society, and I hope that I'm good with my timing. No, you're very good with the timing. Thank you for that. And it's so exciting. So you really mentioned very nice things. And you are thinking about sports, and by means of sports, thinking differently, changing your mentality through sports, and you can just evolve your mentality through sports. And you're talking about such an important thing. And maybe with the things you have mentioned, maybe for the people who have who get acquainted for the first time with BoMoVu, that will be a great opportunity for them to understand your foundation. Okay, now I would love to give the floor to Ercan TUTAL from AYDER. And for AYDER and for Ercan, I'm always thinking like this. They are just giving us a shower of information. And when you don't have any obstacles, there is no such a thing like disabled people. So you can also come over all the obstacles by sports and volunteering. So they created great models. And so welcome, Ercan. And how AYDER, how it is created, how it is founded, and how you are running your studies, and the effect that you created, and what are you in the current situation, what are you doing? Can you just talk about this a little bit?
İnternet bağlantısının çok kötü olması nedeniyle
First of all, because of the terrible internet connection, I apologize for you, but I'm in a rural area, and this is the best connection that I can have. And esteemed colleague, Sibel, I would like to thank for the sign language interpretation. Congratulations. She's very eager, and she's doing the interpretation, the sign language interpretation. This is also very important for being inclusive. This is very important, and it is a great thing that you demanded something like this. And as AYDER, Alternative Life Foundation, we are going to be completing the quarter century. We can say that it seems easy to say it, but it's not easy because even though it's passed very quickly, for the 22 years, we are saying that a life without obstacles are possible. And so we are saying that there is a gap between where they are and where they should be. So we are trying to work. So this is a civil organization which is working to remove the gap between what is possible and what is the situation is. And I am the leader for 22 years. And in the panels, as of the morning, in every panel, I have witnessed many colleagues that I had been through in those kind of years. And it's all about a story of sustainability. So this is something very valuable. And in Turkey, even in the beginning, so we were talking about sports and this cultural and change through sports, and we put it in the center. We said that if you can do sports, actually, we are saying that we can remove all the barriers in front of the disabled people if we can put the sports in the center, so it can be a barrier-free living for them. For 22 years, thousands of disabled people from different disabled groups. We are bringing them together with the sports world, and we are organizing tons of projects. And the most important sports activity in the world's most important activities, and it's as rich as Paralympics and Special Olympics, and they are just based on volunteerism, and this is a great model. And Special Olympics, have you ever looked at the videos? Have you ever looked at the definitions of it is talking about 1.5 million volunteers, and so it is very much exciting. And without their contribution, we wouldn't exist. The Super Olympics founders are saying that it's the same thing for us. For instance, in Tokyo Olympics, 2,000 people were volunteered for that, and it also shows that this is a very important power. So it's a sleeping monster, I can say. It's a sleeping giant, because there's when you look at when we know that 1/7 of the world is disabled people, and to overcome their barriers and to use sports as a tool for that. And while doing that, doing it together with the volunteers is such an important thing. So it is it's in between countries. It's an international. I believe that that's a sleeping giant. And in the studies that we do in Turkey,
Sesini kaybettik sanıyorum şu anda Ercan'ın.
we don't hear the speaker, unfortunately, Ercan.
Tamam.
Yes, okay, we don't hear.
Ercan'ın internet bağlantısı
Right now, there's a problem with Ercan's internet connection, as he mentioned in the beginning.
Başlangıçta teşekkür edip söyleyecektim ama Ercan döndün mü?
Ercan, are you back?
Türkiye'de yaptığımız
Yes, I'm back. I hear you.
Çalışmalar dediğin noktada biz senin sesini kaybettik. İnternet
Okay, we lost you. You were talking about your work in Turkey, and can you just talk about this a bit? Yeah, the work that we do in Turkey, the Special Olympics is one of them, and it is a very important potential. It's talking about the existence of it. You're using sports as a tool, and this is a movement of volunteerism. And on one hand, from the budget size, it is making the projects to be feasible and doable, and at the same time, it is creating that dynamism. I think this is a sleeping giant, and so as AYDER, the foundation of AYDER is similar to this. So it is like a sleeping giant, and we are trying to cover the gap between the reality and what it should be. So we are talking about a country where the volunteerism and the disabled.
Ses yine gitti. Sanıyorum kısa bir süre içerisinde dönecektir.
We lost the sound again, and I hope that they will be back again. Ercan, I don't know if you can hear us, but we cannot hear you.
Bekliyorum bir süre daha
I'm still
katılmanı.
waiting for you.
Bu arada benim de sözüm yarım kalmıştı. Onu da tamamlamak istiyorum.
And by the way, I want to complete my words too. And up until the morning, as of 10:30, we have two interpreters, and they are making sign language interpretation, and they are paying a lot of effort. And we would like to thank their support. And this is because of the contribution of our sign language interpretations and because of AYDER. And we couldn't hear you, Ercan, so would you like to wrap it up and would you like to add anything else? So you said that the Turkey is lagging behind the list in terms of volunteering in sports, in disabled sports, but okay.
Peki. Biz bu durumda yani Ercan'ın internet bağlantısı koptuğu için
Since we lost Ercan because of the internet connection,
ben katılımcılarımıza çok teşekkür
I
ediyorum.
would like to thank our participants.
Aynı şekilde teşekkürümü sonra
And then I would like to extend my thanks to
bağlamında,
Ercan as well.
birlikte
We
ve
talked
demokratik
about
ortam
being a
yaratma,
democratic
yaratma
inclusion,
sporun
and we
gücünden
talked about the rights, and we talked about the power of sports. And I would like to thank all the panelists for their contribution. So we hope to continue our processes with solidarity. I'm aware, I'm a volunteer, and we're going to be together. We will do it together. As your hashtags are completing this slogan very well. Thank you for your participation, Ezgi and Hamit, Levent.
Görüşmek üzere. Hoşçakalın.
Have a nice day. Bye.